Welcome to a new episode of the Rebel Radio Podcast, where you shall be entertained today, or so we hope.
Yes, we hope.
This is Mark.
This is Matt.
And thank you for tuning into the show today, as we are going to talk a really, really great movie today, 2000's Gladiator, which is quite an epic film.
Heck yeah.
And anyone listening on WBLZmedia.com, Ironiq Radio, where we're on from 2 to 4 p.m. Central on Wednesdays. Thank you for tuning in and checking us out.
Yeah, thank you.
And go to the rebelradiopodcast.com and subscribe to us on all the apps if you like what you're hearing on Ironiq Radio. So, how's it going?
It's going pretty awesome. The weather's been kind of crazy. It's
cold. You always bring up the weather.
It was warm. Yeah.
Are you like becoming old and weather obsessed?
Oh my God!
It's gonna rain today.
It's gonna rain. No, the weather.
Like my mom.
And then I'll start talking about the paper.
I have to watch the weather. I'm like, Mom, it's Texas. It's either 50% it's going to rain, 50% it's not going to rain. It's hot from April till October, and then cold maybe November through February.
Yeah,
that's it. Whoa, toys fell.
Batman just fell over. Yeah, it'll snow if hell freezes over, which it did last year.
Yeah.
So, but it warmed right back up again the next day. So it doesn't happen that often.
No. But
yeah, I guess I am talking about the weather a little bit more often.
You're like old now.
Yeah,
you got over. You're 31 now. You just turned 31.
God, man, I don't. Like what happened to me?
An old man.
Yeah. And you know what also is good?
Have you
Tapioca.
started to sit down and pee yet?
No.
Just because you don't feel like standing up?
I have to, every once in a while. If I'm really tired, I will. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, Mary will be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm peeing."
Or I have to sometimes.
You're sitting down. I'm like, "Yeah."
Well, whenever we wake up in the morning, we have that thing that happens to us, yeah. and it's like it doesn't. If I pee standing up, it's going everywhere. It's just I can't pee in the mornings. It's like someone put a thumb in the front of a water hose.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, there's that.
Yeah, that escalated quickly.
Yes,
but my week's been okay. I had to go back to work. That sucked. But,
yeah, we both did.
It wasn't too bad. It was, I survived. I didn't rip anyone's hair out.
Yeah, you're here.
Or and I made it to Saturday, a day off, and I'm just like. Breathe.
And you didn't have to work for the open house.
No, yeah.
You know what? I went there today and I shopped and I grabbed a beer, which I'm drinking today, and I was underwhelmed. Back in the day, there used to be like bacon and like brisket, and they'd sample all this stuff.
These companies are cheap now.
Man, dude, it's just like some cold sausage, and I'm like, no. No.
Well, I shopped in the Enemy's store today.
Yes.
They were sampling wine and stuff.
Ooh.
And so, they win.
They've always got a one-up. Yeah, they won up.
So we're going to try some new things today with the show. Not necessarily new segments, just a little more chit-chat, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Just because we feel sometimes there's things we want to say in the world that we read interesting stories about, and we're like wondering, man, I want to talk about that. But we're going to get to Gladiator here in a bit, and we're going to get to download this. But so I read this story. I mean, you may have seen this in the news about there was a object out in space last October.
Oh yeah,
way out there, and it honestly looks like a giant penis. But it immediately reminded me of that scene in Austin Powers. It's a giant Johnson. And that's kind of what it looked like.
Whoa, that looks like a one-eyed monster.
But Harvard scientists believe that it could have been a spacecraft watching us from afar, because they said it had no energies around it or anything like that, or signs of like a comet or asteroid that it may have been. But it looked like he had some sort of solar cells attached to it, almost like Count Dooku's ship in Star Wars.
That's awesome.
And it's interesting. So it got me thinking, immediately like the awesome look, because it really looked like a giant cock. I mean, it looked like. And but it comes to, you think now as technology gets greater and we can see further in things, it's only a matter of time, don't you think?
I think
There's
so.
no way we're the only ones out there. It doesn't mean that War of the Worlds is going to happen, we're going to get invaded, or they're going to land, and we're going to talk to them. But eventually, we're going to see something that they can't deny.
Are you talking about Space Force, Mark? Because
yes.
We will sign up if there's a plasma rifle that I can get.
Hell yeah. Space Force in a second. But I would imagine, I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime, but it's only a matter of time now before we see something that's legitimately real.
Yeah.
That is absolute proof. There's no Roswell nor hiding it, that it's there. Because I do believe there's something out there. There's no way, in the vastness of space and everything we know,
I think it would be very naive if we believed we were the only
living
intelligent
beings
beings
anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
But I also, in a way, I welcome it. I think it'd be cool as shit.
Yeah.
How badass would it be to watch the news and the ship lands and maybe not with Donald Trump because he would probably say something racist to him. but in the president, let's just say the president. We're just going to say a generic president of the United States. Hey, he can be Harrison Ford from Air Force One.
There we go.
For all I care. And he sits there and he greets this alien, and it's just this gigantic moment in history. And then we just pray to fuck that they don't shoot us all up next.
Yes, like in Mars Attacks.
Right. But how cool? But it would be possibly one of the greatest moments ever in human history if that ever happened.
That would be cool.
And it's a neat thing to think about. And I saw this story and it intrigued me because I've always been kind of intrigued by the idea of UFOs and things like that. And and we'll see, and if it's real. And I have one more thing that interests me in the news, but did you have something that you saw? Yeah,
I had a local story from one of our friends, Graham. He's not on Thorskin podcast, but he's a big enthusiast. Co-conspirator with them.
Those British guys conspirating things.
And he has a friend, and he wanted me to talk about it, and he's making some art for.
I'm glad you saw
a really
that because he
good
sent it to me and I forgot.
Yeah, well, and plus I think he said that he sent the bad link to you because there's two links. The first one didn't work.
Motherfucker trying to send me a virus.
Yeah. Cyrus the virus, man. And so his name's Eric John Pfluger. And he says a few months ago he made a painting to honor the noble work of the Wayne Foundation. And immediately I was like, is this like, was this a Batman painting or something like that? But no, it's he painted my now signature style. It's a piece designed to represent courage and strength of the survivors and victims of abuse of human trafficking. And the belief that out of pain and trauma can emerge new hope and a fresh start. So there is an original painting co-founded by Kevin Smith to give someone a chance. It's to raise money. All the profits will go to the foundation and of victims of human trafficking. And it's on eBay right now. It's just under artwork by Eric Pfluger. And it's by, I think it's Cygnus Arts. Okay. Yeah, and it's for the Wayne Foundation charity right now. The bid ends in 5 days and 21 hours, so... that would be, Saturday? Yeah. Or Friday. It would end Friday. The bid's at $67.66 if you do want to get in on that. Shipping is $7.45, so not too high on the shipping. It's for a good cause, so if you guys want to jump in on that.
And it seems like you said, like Kevin Smith's foundation kind of helps support it in a way. That's great, man. Kevin's he's obviously a huge inspiration to us. I listen to Fat Man Beyond every week. I listen to Hollywood Babylon some. And, he does a lot more than people think he does for charity work. He's done a lot. He's out there tweeting, getting people safe away from these fires that are going on in California. Yeah. So a good dude. And a quick note, my friend Brian, who's been on the show, he went to L.A. last week and brought me back a patch from the Scum and Villainy Cantina where Kevin films or records Fat Man Beyond. So that's a really cool thing to have to add to my collection. The other thing I have it's a much funnier story in a way, but not funny. There's a doctor in Vegas that has been accused of, he's an OBGYN. Oh, so man. When the girls are put under, they're waking up with purple pussy hair. Oh, my God. Way to say it.
Oh, my God.
So he's been suspended, and it's not funny, but it is funny. Yeah, he shouldn't do it. It is abuse. It's against the law. But I'm reading the story, and it's just, I can't help but laugh. And if you read the comments in the Facebook, and some of the girls, like, he's discussing blah, blah. Some girls are like, I'd probably wake up and laugh about it. And then one girl's like, well, who has hair anymore anyway? And I just, I read this, and I'm like, wow, it's bold. Yeah. He did it. It's kind of funny, but I get how it's like, you can't do that. And people are calling for him to lose his medical license and all that. And maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. It's not like he did wrong surgeries or anything like that, so I don't know, but
it's not like he was putting himself on these. He
was a doctor with a sense of humor in a weird way.
It's like it's like that the OBGYN jokes on Family Guy, and he's like yeah, she wanted Pine Forest, and I gave her a new car, and I'm like I guess kind of like that.
But ultimately, no, we're not condoning it. It's wrong, but it's a funny story. You gotta laugh. It is true.
What woman has vag hair anymore?
I know, or like maybe just a little landing strip.
A little landing strip. That's it. It's like no one's got the big old rug anymore.
I mean, it's no shave November for the guys, but it's no bush all year round for the girls.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So some things that tweaked my interest in the news this week, and aliens and purple pussy hair.
There we go. Yeah.
So let's get into the meat of the show. You have nothing else interesting?
No, not really.
But we always start the show with download this, which is where we talk about what we've watched, streamed, downloaded to our phones this week. Because we live in a world where we're always constantly downloading, watching, streaming. We're plugged in all the fucking time. I mean, I do have moments where I'll set my phone down. I'll leave it on the bar on purpose for an hour or something because you have to back away. Otherwise, it's in your brains, and it's just the way the world is. But nothing wrong with it. It can be a good tool.
Yeah.
So what did you watch, download, stream this week?
I'm gonna go ahead and just use the movie that we're watching this week. I just watched it like 5 times.
Damn.
I did. It's like every day.
I watched it once, and it took me 2 nights to watch it because I was tired.
That's funny. I watched the director's cut the first time, and then I watched the regular cut the second time. I really didn't see any difference.
I didn't even know there was a director's cut of this.
Yeah, I think I got scammed. I'm like, I don't think I paid.
Troy is a famous sword and sandal scam. The one with Brad Pitt. It has a director's cut.
Yeah,
which is vastly different. But this one,
this gave us, Troy pretty much. It's responsible for Troy and Mark Anthony. No, King Alexander. Sorry, King Alexander, and of course. What was that other? Oh, and the remake of Clash of the Titans. Yeah, because of which we'll get into. Yeah. But yeah, that's. I mean, I'm going to use that because it's like I watched it so many times.
You basically slacked off this week in a way. Though.
I did. I wanted to just really take Gladiator in, and I feel like it's easy to absorb. After one watch, I probably didn't need to. I probably didn't need to watch it like 5 times, but hey.
Hey, sometimes you do it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's fun just watching a Russel Crowe slice people's heads off.
Well, I went the Marvel route this week and watched a couple of things. I finished Daredevil. I want to talk about that in a minute, but I watched Ant-Man and Wasp finally last night.
Okay, cool.
It was okay.
Solid.
It was better than the first one.
Yeah.
Again, it suffered from the Marvel villain problem, kind of a weak villain.
Yeah.
The girl who played Ghost did a good job with it, though, and it's always nice to see Lawrence Fishburne now that he exists in 2 universes, DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
It's always nice to see Michael Douglas on screen, one of our great screen actors of our time, and he got to do more in this.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It also suffered from that Marvel problem for me, where it just tried too hard to pull off the one-liners, and I didn't find myself really laughing at a lot of them. I almost found Paul Rudd more annoying in this. It's almost like they gave him too much to say. Instead of just shut up and be Ant-Man,
Yeah, that's true.
They gave him too much just bad dialogue. But I didn't hate the movie. I did like it better than the first Ant-Man. The mid-credit scene, which is this, I obviously spoilers, but we're away from spoilers by now. I mean, that was like, wow. Even though we saw it coming, it was like, wow, that's intense. So he's stuck in the quantum realm now. We'll see what happens when Avengers 4 comes out and how that all plays out for Scott Lang. But overall, it was a good, solid Marvel film. Probably it's not going to be in their top 5, maybe not even top 10, but it was good. The actor who played Lewis, they gave him more to do in this one, and he was fun to watch.
Yeah, I really like Lewis, especially when he was riding in the car.
And they used him better in this one. The first one, I wasn't sure what to make out of him because he seemed out of place in the movie because you didn't know who this character was, and I find him a little annoying. This time, he was less annoying because they gave him a purpose in this movie compared to the first Ant-Man.
Yeah,
I felt
he's a businessman.
Yeah, so I did enjoy it, and then so I finished Daredevil, and wow, man, that was a good season. The show has been good overall. It's Matt Murdock goes through. It's amazing this guy is able to keep it all together through everything he's doing with as he tries to take down the
Kingpin.
The Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, who is just unbelievable. He has his hands in everything. He thinks of everything. There's almost no stopping him. The actor who plays Bullseye, Ben Poindexter, does a phenomenal job. They never do call him Bullseye in the show.
You just see the symbol.
Yeah, but you know who he is. It all came together very nicely. I hope they don't cancel like they're canceling other Netflix shows.
I really hope
they do end it on a note where they could end it there, but there's a small twist at the end where they leave it open.
Yeah.
But most loose threads were tied up in this season.
For the most part.
Deborah Ann Wool, who plays Karen Page, she is so good.
Yeah, she really is.
She should be considered for an Emmy for this, which is rare for a show like this. But The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones have won Emmys. So why can't Daredevil? Because she is the stuff that Karen goes through in this season is heart wrenching, phenomenal. The Karen episode alone, and I'm going to call out Alex Whitley from Thorskin Podcast. He was complaining about the Karen episode, saying, I came to watch Daredevil, not the Karen Pace show.
I saw that.
But that episode is so important to the other 13 of the show, and it gives Karen so much background and so much. You realize the tragedy that's in her heart.
Yeah.
And it's a really well done show.
Just seems like one thing goes wrong after another, and she really couldn't catch a break over there.
Marvel, if they had maybe put out Luke Cage and Iron Fist before this, maybe they would have been received better, because this is so good. It's like, would those other ones have ever topped it without being this good? And Daredevil's arguably a more popular character too.
Yeah, arguably.
And I hope it comes back around, with season 4 and they do some more. And I really want to see a Bullseye season where he has to go toe-to-toe Bullseye, and I want Frank Castle to come back too, because I think Daredevil's going to need some help with Bullseye. He's going to need another. And maybe Punisher comes back and gives Red a hand.
Hopefully
that would be cool. That would be the way I would do it.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing it, so Daredevil, you haven't watched it yet, and I think I stayed pretty spoiler free there.
Yeah, that was very spoiler free.
So that's good stuff. Download this week. So, as always, our featured movie for this week is, when we talked a little bit already, is 2000's Gladiator, starring Russel Crowe, directed by the great Ridley Scott. Made some of the great films of our time in the last 30 years, 40 years. This movie, this is a movie. I mean, not that all the other movies we haven't done aren't movies.
Yeah.
There's movies, and then there's movies that you go to the theater to escape, be entertained, walk out of it going like an experience, like Star Wars or Batman or Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Those are different kind of experiences than Batman. Batman's fantasy lifts you up. Saving Private Ryan makes you think about what men went through. And Gladiator is a mix of both of those. It's a mix of fantasy, but it's also based a lot of reality and stuff that did happen back then.
Yeah.
It's just not as current history to us, so we're not as familiar with it as World War II. But this movie I hadn't probably watched it in a long time. I didn't remember seeing it in theaters. Did you see it in theaters?
No, I did not. I believe my parents bought it.
Yeah. And it's from the moment the opening battle to the end of the film, whenever he's going to join his family in the Elysium Fields, it's eye catching, and it's nonstop. It's plotted well. It's paced well, and it's so good.
Whenever he's talking about his family, and Aurelius is like, "Tell me about your home," and he's like describing his home. You're like, I think you're instantly, feel for Maximus's character, and you're instantly, attracted to what this person's doing. He's a family man. He's doing what he has to do for Rome, but ultimately, he's just a guy that wants to go home. Mm-hmm. And he can't wait for the end of these wars.
When the movie opens, he hasn't been home for 2 years.
264 days in this morning.
And yeah. It's 200, so it was a year? I thought he hadn't been home.
He's like,
that's
2
like
years,
later
264
once he
days.
becomes a slave, then it has been 2 years since he'd been.
No, it's still 2
years, 264 days. That's right, almost 3 years. Okay.
During that last battle.
Yeah, and he just wants to finish this battle and get on with it. And you're right. That's all he ultimately wants to do. He'll do his duty because he's your consummate soldier that's going to do what he's told.
Yeah.
But his ultimate goal is to see his wife and child again.
Yeah, and he, just describing his son, he's got a great home. And then, they use Maximus' character to, describe a point in time.
And that whole description of the home, a lot of that was ad-libbed by Russell Crowe describing his own home back in Australia.
And in fact, a lot of this is ad-libbed. Whenever Russell received the script for this film, it was only 21 pages long. And usually, he says the script is, a little over 100, 110 at least.
Yeah.
And in fact, there were some days where they sent the crew home because they didn't have anything to film. They're like, we don't know what we're filming. And then he's like, and then Ridley would come to my home, and then the producer would come over, and we'd come up with dialogue and what we were going to shoot. And I'm like, in an interview, Russell, said that, it was a film that, really dodged a bullet with the dialogue, and you just don't know how much of a, what's the word? Just a coincidence, that some of these things, some of this dialogue came together just, because of the cast that was there. and the talent that they had, and of course Ridley being a great director, was able to come up with some things, and Russell helped a lot.
And great actors like the legendary Richard Harris and Oliver Reed are in this film.
Yes,
and to bring them in and to give it a sense of what's the word? Admiration for those actors who have been in Hollywood for so long.
Oh yeah,
they give this sense of I can't think of the word.
Yeah, just I guess pedigree.
Yeah,
there's the movie had a lot of pedigree.
And they would do this, and to think that this won Best Picture, but yet so much of it was put together at the last minute.
Yeah,
and it was all. And it was shot over like 3-4 months. It began principal photography in January of 1999, and it wrapped photography by May of that year. And that's quite a quick shoot, considering it came out the next May in 2000, all the CGI work they had to do to recreate Rome.
Yes, and the CGI work that they had to do to recreate Proximo.
Yeah.
Which I think you could argue that this CGI is better than Rogue One, maybe?
And I went and looked at some, and Proximo, of course, played by Oliver Reed, who died with about 3 weeks left in filming.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered, the only scene that had to be filmed is the one towards the end that's in the dark, and that's why Proximo's in the shadows.
Oh, okay.
So they CGI'd it. And they actually went back and looked. There hadn't been a lot of movies that had to happen. They actually went back and looked at what they did for Brandon Lee in The Crow, and to see how to do it so they could map his face, because this is only 6 years after The Crow came out.
Wow.
So it's still kind of a new thing. And that's from what I read. It's the scene in the dark in the dungeon of the Colosseum towards the end, where he tells Maximo, I'm giving you freedom after this fight. That is the one scene that's mostly the CGI work done for Oliver Reed's character.
That makes sense. And yeah, man. And then what you call it? And this film also, another thing that came from this film was Russel Crowe making a music video. Did you see that? He made a music video where he's like standing in a coliseum and he's singing. Oh,
well, I know he has a country band and all that, or some, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, who does this guy? He's Maximus, and now he thinks that he can be the Maximus.
Yeah.
In the forefront of a band, and I'm like, no, you're the Gladiator.
Well, and then when this came out, Russell Crowe was still relatively unknown. He had a couple of films out, but this was like...
But Ridley Scott was well known.
Yeah, Ridley Scott was well known. He had done Blade Runner, the original Alien. This was Russell Crowe's real big break for a film, and the movie was widely marketed. This was supposed to be a big summer event movie. It came out in May of 2000. It was one of the top grossing films at the box office that year. Mm-hmm. And when Oscar season came around, people were like, it started getting noticed, because it kind of was honestly dismissed early that year. Not because it wasn't good, but
it was an action film.
Movies that came out early in the year never won Best Picture. You had to come out like in October to December, and that has changed. And I in some ways think this is the movie that started that. Going back to back then. Well, Saving Private Ryan did come out.
That's a fair point.
Saving Private Ryan did come out early in '98, and it was nominated for Best Picture. But generally, your Oscar-worthy movies were always saved towards the end of the year. Event movies weren't, pushed for Oscars, and Gladiator broke that barrier. There had been a few movies before the original Star Wars. It was nominated for Best Picture, but Gladiator broke that barrier by winning. And Russell Crowe won Best Actor for this as well.
Yeah, Best Actor, and it was surprising that Ridley did not win Best Director, because usually if you win Best Picture, you win Best Director as well most of the time. But this time that didn't happen. I forget who won Best Director that year, but this is a big Oscar winner in that year. 5 nominations, I believe, and Russell Crowe being Best Actor with his stoicness.
Right.
We have stoic hand through the grain fields. We have stoic paintaking and stoic hand rubbing with the dirt.
But he's really good in this movie. Like when after his family is killed and he's enslaved, everything he says, he has a real belief in his eyes. Like, he does believe, I'm going to see my family again, and I'm going to have my revenge, and you buy into it. He's so good, and whenever he is finally taken to Rome, which is, man, for an 18-year-old film, it holds up really well. The CGI looks really good. When they go into Rome and you see Rome rebuilt on the big screen, it's really, really
Colosseum
neat.
Looks
it's
great.
Incredible looking. We had that back in Ben-Hur in the 50s, which they used matte paintings and stuff back then. But for CGI and matte work, this is really cool. To see Rome come to life, and and as Commodus enters Rome and everything, after he rides in like he just won this great battle after killing his father and killing and having Maximus, sent away, because he has Maximus sent away to be killed, but he escapes. And it's a really, really neat scene. And it takes you away for a moment seeing the glory of Rome, but then you realize that this guy sitting on the throne is a piece of shit.
He really is. And a lot of it is...
But Phoenix is so good in it.
Yeah, Phoenix is really good. I mean, Commodus, throughout history is known as one of the worst emperors of Rome. In fact, he was... if we follow history, if you look before what happens in the beginning scene, Commodus was taken everywhere with Marcus Aurelius.
Mm-hmm.
Aurelius, his father, would take him to political conventions.
He would
Richard
take him to the
Harris
Senate.
played
in this movie.
The great Richard Harris, who really gives you the belief of a war-ridden emperor that just he's tired.
And
he's very smart. Every line that he says is legitimate, and
you pay attention.
Yeah.
And the great thing about actors like him and Oliver Reed is they are classically trained actors, and you can see Russel Crowe kind of becoming that in this. He feeds off those guys, because you go watch an old movie like we were talking a few weeks ago on your Voodoo account. You have Shane, and you go watch those old movies like that where these guys just deliver these lines. They have this natural acting ability. They're classically trained. They're not worried about CGI. They're not worried about winning awards. They just do their job. Mm-hmm. And guys like Richard Harris and Oliver Reed do that. They do their job, and it comes out on the screen in just waves of greatness.
Yeah, I agree with that. Commodus, in the past, as history tells us, his father would take us to all these meetings. He basically groomed him to be emperor from an early age. Knowing that, you kind of see, where the mental breakdown came from, whenever his father, rejected him. And I think, had it been in the movie, had it been anyone else, due to the line of, which older, wiser senator is taking my place,
right.
I think he would have accepted it and not gone on a crazy rampage and suffocated his father,
right.
Which didn't happen. In history, he died. And then Commodus becomes emperor at age 19, and kind of acts like Joaquin Phoenix does in the movie.
From what I read, because I did a little research on the history of it, though, Aurelius did intend to give power to the Senate, though, but he died before Commodus. He announced to the public, didn't he?
Yeah.
And so that's why Commodus took over. So it was never known to the public that Aurelius intended to let the Senate take over because Commodus wasn't ready.
Yeah. And Commodus, just like the movie suggests, he starts the games because he was infatuated with gladiators. Mm-hmm. In fact, he had a training partner that would train him and practice with him, and he would set up these fights that were pretty much rigged, similar to how you saw him fight Maximus at the end. Sometimes it would be wounded. Sometimes it would just be, they weren't that great, or they'd have really bad armor and a dull blade. And of course, Commodus would have the best stuff. He's like level 99 fighting a level 1 guy in your RPG game, and he just took him down. He had a hit list, and he did start killing off people, which they do mention in the movie, and you do see that happening. Senators disappearing, dying,
right.
Mysteriously, being executed by archery, firing squad, whatever. And so the mistress finds this hit list, and she's at the top of this list. And so the mistress is like, nope. And so she brings this to his wrestling partner and some of the other people on the list, and they convince his wrestling partner to strangle him in his bathwater,
right.
Which would have been a horrible ending scene. This is much better.
Yeah.
But the gladiator at the end is supposed to be represent the one that killed him in the
right.
bathtub. But I'm glad they didn't have Russel Crowe strangling Joaquin Phoenix in bathwater.
But yeah. But it's interesting how history changes. But in movies, and part of that was like the idea is when Maximus. Let's go back to when Maximus first comes back to Rome, because Proximo tells him, "Hey, you go to Rome and you fight and you win the crowd. You'll win your freedom eventually." And so he realizes when he arrives that Commodus is going to be at these games. So he puts on a helmet for the first big fight. Mm-hmm. And it's an incredible chariot fight, with these people in chariots, and really some fantastic scenes in this movie. The gladiator fights are really well done. And and he of course wins. We know this. So Commodus wants to meet him, and this scene in the movie is why Russell Crowe wins Best Actor. It's gut wrenching. It's you want to cheer, but you're also like it makes your spine tingle. It's so good when he takes off his helmet. And he's like, at first he says, "I'm Gladiator," and he turns his back on him. He's like, "How dare you turn your back?" And he takes his helmet off, and he goes, and I'm the father of a murdered son, and
father murdered.
You probably know the line.
Husband to a murdered wife, soldier to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
And just the snarl in his mouth and his lips, and just the look of hatred in his eyes. And it's powerful.
Yeah.
And I actually took a picture while watching and put on our Instagram account and our Twitter saying, like, this is the moment in the film. And let's not forget that Hans Zimmer's amazing musical score for this is playing in the background, and it adds to the scene. This movie has such great music in it. I would put it right up there with some of the greats, the Star Wars and Superman themes and things of our time.
Yeah, the music is so good, you'll forget that Hans Zimmer reused it for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, did he? I didn't even realize that.
Yes.
Or he used certain keys.
Certain parts. Yeah. It's like he basically just added some deeper boom, 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 boom.
Which isn't uncommon.
The bass of it is like if you watch it again and you pay attention to the music, you're like, man, that is a lot like Pirates of the Caribbean. Not exactly, but a lot. He basically used the bass of it.
That's not uncommon, though. The guy who Nolan uses did some similar.
He did
things.
Hans Zimmer did.
Yeah, and he did similar things in Inception that he did in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, very similar.
So, but it is a great musical score. One of Hans Zimmer's best.
Yeah, it really is.
And so that scene just comes alive so much on screen when he reveals himself to Commodus, and Commodus in his eyes, give credit to Joaquin Phoenix, he sees this and he's like he wants to kill him. You could see in his eyes, but he can't because the crowd loves him. So
as soon as he has the guards to arms, the crowd's like, live.
Yeah, so he has to give the thumbs up and let him live, and from this moment Commodus starts plotting how are we going to take care of him and all this, and his sister, played by Connie Nielsen, who is fantastic in the movie.
Yeah, she really is.
She kind of keeps him under control because he listens to her, and she kind of, even though she wants Maximus to live, she kind of tells him, like, he'll die eventually, we'll get him into the Gladiator. She kind of convinces him, like, just let it play out, and to back him off so she can devise her own plot to help Maximus get free, which ultimately fails at the end. Later, and as the movie goes on, there's another big fight with tigers and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, a guy comes out of retirement, 5-year retirement,
and they use like 2 real tigers and 2 CGI tigers. I remember if I read, and they kept Crow away 20 feet at all times. You can't get the start of the tigers, but it's a really cool scene in the movie with the tigers and everything, and he defeats this gladiator, and Commodus gives orders for that gladiator to be killed with a thumbs down, but Commodus doesn't do it.
Defies him.
Yeah.
And they say, Maximus the Merciful.
Yeah.
And they all clap.
Yeah.
This film also could have been named Mad Maximus Fury Rome.
So at this point, his Connie Nielsen, his sister, is plotting to, because she has a son she wants to protect, and she knows her brother is crazy and not good for Rome.
Yeah.
So she plots to get Maximus out, but it goes wrong, and he's ultimately captured, and that's where we get the showdown at the end of the film, where history has changed a bit in the story as he confronts, as he challenges, the Emperor Commodus challenges Maximus in the arena, but like you said, he injures him, as he did to a lot of his people, his opponents in real life. He stabs him in the side, so he's basically bleeding out of his side, and he has use of only one hand. And he fights him, but he still ends up defeating Commodus.
Heck yeah, dude. He still wins.
Yeah.
And Commodus loses a sword. The guards refuse to give him a sword. Commodus dies. Maximus, of course, passes away. And the power goes to the Senate, and there's a scene at the end.
Of Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, the last wishes of Marcus Aurelius. In fact, why didn't he just empower that senator to begin with?
Right.
This could have all been avoided. But and then he's carried off. He said he was a soldier of Rome. Who will carry him? Maybe that's the director's cut. Was that in the regular one?
No, it was in the regular one.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to think what was.
And then his fellow gladiators. He because he was a general while he was in slavery and encaged, he gained respect of the other gladiators. It was almost like his own little army.
Yeah, it really was.
Like Damon Hansel, I think that's how you say
Oh,
it. A lot of movies in Blood Diamond with Leonardo
the German?
DiCaprio. No,
the
Juba.
Nubian.
Yeah. He's fantastic in this too as well.
He's good.
This was like the first movie where people will recognize him, and I think he got some award notice for this and some nominations. And he helps carry him and everyone else as they carry him off, and he has these little trinkets, were like these carvings that Maximus carried around with him that were from one of his last family heirlooms that his Maximus's buddy held on to him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his buddy. It was basically like his slave.
Cicero.
Yeah, Cicero.
Yeah, his assistant.
And his assistant. And so Jabu gets those and he buries them on the land where Maximus was from because he promised him, and he says, I'll see you again, but not yet, because he has his own family. Because Proxima was killed in the film towards the end because he betrayed the Emperor.
Yeah.
But he was able to sign papers and free all of his gladiators before he died. Because that's one thing Maximus asked him to do.
Are you in danger of becoming a good man?
Right.
He's like, Count Commodus makes me rich. He's like, he murdered the man that set you free, and then that's what makes him click. And so he's even able to inspire the businessman, the hard-hearted businessman to, have a heart and be a good man, and releases the slaves and sets it up to where Commodus Commodus can be killed by Maximus. Unfortunately, it was, like you said, it was averted. But what they don't tell you what happens after that film in history, whenever Commodus is killed and the Senate takes over, Rome is actually thrown into chaos after that point. There's a struggle all the time, over leadership. Pretty much a civil war ensues, and then the city is overrun, because it's weakened, and
right.
That was the fall of Rome. It preceded the fall of Rome.
Yeah.
And Aurelius, died, one of the last great emperors.
And I was wrong. It was 5 tigers they brought in.
5 tigers.
And they changed things in history. Like a lot of comparisons were made to this movie on Braveheart as well. Which you still haven't seen Braveheart, have you?
I have seen Braveheart.
Yeah. Well, Braveheart changed a lot of things too. And I don't want to talk too much because one day we'll probably do Braveheart. But William Wallace actually did very little compared to what the movie shows.
Yeah,
he got it started, but Robert the Bruce did most of the work for Scotland. And I think there's a TV show coming out about Robert the Bruce. I think I saw a preview for it somewhere.
Maybe on A&E.
Yeah, so and like you said, very similar to this. History changes things to make things a little bit better. Like there was some ideas in the script to have Maximus have an affair with Lucille, Connie Nielsen's character, but Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe didn't like that idea, and that was taken from Braveheart, because in Braveheart, William Wallace has an affair with the princess, where that would have never happened in real life. In Scotland, the princess would have never done that. No matter how much this guy did for freedom of Scotland, princesses just wouldn't have done that. They would not have had affairs. It would have been out of their character, and that's what they said about this, that it would have been out of character for Maximus to do that. And in this case, it's because he loved his wife so much, and all he wanted, it was, like you said, ultimately the film was about going back home. He wanted to go back home in the beginning. And from that point out, being in slavery, it's interesting because Maximus does everything he can to stay alive until he gets revenge. But when he gets that revenge, he's also willing to die because he wants to see his family again in the Elysium fields. And we see him go home at the end, and he's reunited in the afterlife with his son and daughter.
It's a perfect ending.
Yeah.
Now I wonder how they're going to do a sequel.
Yeah, they just announced today Ridley Scott's moving forward with Gladiator 2. I'm not sure if it's... I just don't know. I mean, do you do a prequel? I think if you do the sequel route, like you said, you take a spot in history where Rome starts having problems, and somehow there's a gladiator. Maybe, I'm sure there's a story out there they can tie it to with a new gladiator, but I would think if you're doing a second one, there's no way there's Russell Crowe involved. Not if it's a sequel. And even if it's a prequel, I mean, why? What are we going to see him do as a general leading? He doesn't become a gladiator to this one.
Well, so there are battles they can take advantage of. The barbarians that they fought. Maybe we get the real Battle of Carthage.
Right.
But I could see a prequel. Where maybe he. He's a general. We see what happens with him and Aurelius's daughter, or you see a hand pop out of the ground. And he's really alive, and he comes back.
That'd be a bit much.
Yes,
but I also feel this is a movie that doesn't need a sequel. I think it's so good that it stands on its own.
Yeah,
and I'm glad we did it for the show because I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I forgot how phenomenal it is. I remember liking it when it came out, but I also didn't love it. But I think I love it now. This is such a good movie. It's so well done. It's so well acted. It's so well shot, well directed. We already talked about the musical score. Just from beginning to end, it's a really.
He's got a cool helmet. I want to get myself one of those helmets.
I love sword and sandal epics.
Yeah.
And like you said, this went on to inspire Troy, which I don't think Troy got enough love. I really like Troy. I thought it was well done. I still need to see Ridley Scott's Exodus of Gods and Kings with Christian Bale.
Yeah,
he did that, and went on to. This got the Clash of the Titans remake done, which wasn't great, but I still enjoyed the Clash of Titans remake for what it was. So Gladiator did kind of spawn a series of sword and sandal epics, which maybe the sequel will get that going again, because I do like this era in history, and I think there's a lot of cool stories that can be told from these ideas, and Gladiator is probably the best of them. It's a classic, and it's right up there with a Ben-Hur, which is a sword and sandals epic, even though it's based on the Bible days. But this is definitely a modern classic. It's a Best Picture winner, and it's one of the best films of the last 20 years, easily.
I agree. Definitely probably one of the best sword and sandal films of our time. I don't know if I like Clash of the Titans more. Troy was good, but it's not as good as Gladiator.
Which Clash of Titans? The original Ray Harryhausen one?
The remake.
The remake's not better than this.
Well, there was a time whenever Sam Worthington had to be in everything.
Right, but it's not even close to this film.
No, it's not.
No. Clash of Titans is fun, but it's not Gladiator.
No,
Gladiator is an Oscar winner, and a phenomenal Oscar winner, and a really great film. And I got the idea because the news came out, and a longtime friend of mine, Sean, he posted on our Facebook group that this was one of his favorite movies of all time, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, let's do Gladiator. That's a great movie.
Let's do it.
It's a wonderful, wonderful film, and I'm sure people have seen it and may go back and watch it now after hearing us.
Hopefully,
because it is that good. It's a really good movie, and Russel Crowe, of course, went on to win another Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, and he's made some really great movies in his time since. Lately, he hasn't done as much. I'm sure Russell Crowe will have his comeback film here. He's
probably,
and I can't think of the last big hit he's had. It's off the top of my head.
I mean, I've seen stuff that I liked him in, like Man of Steel. I really liked him.
He was in Man of Steel. Yeah.
I liked him as Superman's dad.
Yeah, he was a good Jor-El.
And
he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
This is probably the role he'll be remembered for. This and A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah,
and that's nothing wrong with that. Beautiful Mind was a great Ron Howard picture, and very different than this movie. This is a. Like I said, this is a movie.
It's a movie.
And it's a fantastic movie. So, any final thoughts on Gladiator? I guess I gave my final thoughts there.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
There you go.
That's enough said.
So, and all right. So that is Gladiator for today's featured movie. So as always, we've got some news breaks to talk about. Preview next week's movie, and we've got I've got a couple of shout outs to give, and some that involve Tom Cruise. And so, and if I could read big news, man! Disney Plus. That's the official title
of the streaming
service. And they dropped a bombshell this week. Another fucking Star Wars TV show, man.
What?
Cassian Andor, who was, of course, in Rogue One, played by Diego Luna, is so good in it. Really, really fantastic Hispanic actor. And I say that, I'm not pointing out that he's Hispanic on purpose, but I can't help but go back to the story when Rogue One came out about this young girl who's Hispanic who took her dad to see Rogue One, and she shared her story on the internet about, he's Hispanic, Dad, and look, he's got a lead part, and their dad was like, yeah, he even talks like us with his accent. And Diego Luna got wind of that, and he tweeted it out, and he said, thank you. And that's what making movies is about, is reaching out to all cultures and all people, and he's so good. And this is a really cool idea to do a Cassian Andor television show. It's going to be on the Disney streaming service. Obviously, it takes place before Rogue One. So he dies in Rogue One. But the possibilities are endless, man. We could see how he meets K2SO. Can we get Emil Clark in here and tie it into Crimson Dawn from Solo?
Oh, that would be badass.
There's so much, man. Can we get a live-action Hera Syndulla? A live-action Ahsoka? As much as The Mandalorian's a cool idea because it takes place after Return of the Jedi, this is cool because there's so much we can do. We can see more Underworld. We could get Bosco on screen, young Boba Fett. There's so much.
I like Star Wars Underworld.
Yeah,
and I felt like we got a little pinch of that in Rogue One. Whenever
and a pinch in Solo.
Yeah, whenever they were. Cassian's meeting his contact
exactly,
and the stormtroopers show up, and I would like more of that. And we got a lot more of that in Solo, but we need more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this can bring us more.
Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, they just announced it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lucasfilm and Disney are going full steam ahead because they just barely announced Mandalorian. Next thing you knew, we had a photo from the set. Directors announced it's full-fledged filming, so I don't know how far along they are on this with Cassian Andor, but really looking forward to this, man. This will be really cool.
This would be.
And as I've said many times for the show, keep bringing the Star Wars, man. Bring it all to me. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Yes.
I want it like freaking sex. I want Star Wars all the time. It's like, bring it to me, And so good, it's a good deal. And then they also confirmed that we are getting the Loki TV series with Tom Hiddleston
nice.
or some sort of miniseries. Nothing about the Falcon Winter Soldier rumor, but Tom Hiddleston pretty much let the cat out of the bag that he's doing a Loki miniseries. More mischief, as he said on his Twitter account from him. And I think that's a great idea. Hiddleston is so good in the role.
He really is.
I know earlier in the show I talked about Ant-Man and Wasp, and I knocked Marvel's villain problem. But, man, I'll take more Tom Hiddleston any day. He's really good. Have you seen him in anything else besides Loki? Well, you saw Kong Skull Island, huh?
Yeah, I did see Kong.
And he was in, there's a World War II movie he's in that was really good. And Hiddleston, he's a really good actor.
He is. I thought he'd be a Bond at one point.
I could see him as Bond at some point or something, but he's really good. And so I'll take more Loki any day, and I'm sure you will too. That could be a fun show if it's done right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I think he's a good actor, and like you said, Loki's villainy is more of mischief and troublemaking, and that of kind of childish. He wanted to rule his own world, and so he was promised Earth, and it's kind of a in the
continuity of things. I wonder where I started thinking like where this might take place. Because he fakes his death after Dark World, so he's got to stay in hiding, and he doesn't reappear until Ragnarok. So it's like I'm wondering where in the line this would take place. We'll see. I guess a lot depends on what happens in Avengers 4 and whether he's still alive or not.
Yeah.
It could be after Avengers. It could be after Infinity War. We'll see.
Maybe we'll see him in the Underworld, and like he is in a lot of the comics.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
But it's a cool idea. So Marvel, and they announced with Disney Plus, it's mostly gonna be family fare. It's gonna be Star Wars, Marvel, Disney stuff, and National Geographic, which Disney is going to now own.
Oh, wow.
With part of their Fox acquisition. So that'll be interesting. The Disney Plus is due for late 2019. So I'm guessing about this time next year, maybe a little earlier, September next year. We'll get our first look at Star Wars TV shows and the Disney Plus streaming service. So
nice.
Just we need more streaming. Netflix, they had a big conference overseas where they're announcing new animated projects. They're going to do more anime, more stuff because anime is still very popular, as we talked about on the show. And the big ones are, there's been rumors for several years now that there were going to be a Pacific Rim animated series. Guillermo del Toro worked on it at some point, and it never happened. I guess Netflix is doing it. It's going to be an anime based on Pacific Rim, and it will be in the continuity of the films. I think that's a great idea because the idea of the robot, the kaiju versus the what were the robots called in Pacific Rim? God damn it!
I forget.
The mechs or whatever.
The mechs.
We'll just call them mechs.
We'll call them mechs.
It plays well for anime, obviously.
Yeah. No, yeah, that would be, I'm instantly thinking of Gundam Wing or,
right.
Big O. Big O is something that's kind of similar. A big monster shows up and then Big O is summoned and then they get fought. I don't know if anyone remembers Big O. It was on. I've
heard of it.
It was Funimation. It was on Cartoon Network for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is good. This is good stuff.
And the other show they announced was an animated film, not a series, but an animated film based on Altered Carbon, which you need to watch. You did watch.
Yeah.
That's Frank who hadn't watched it all.
Frank hadn't.
The book series for Altered Carbon's only 3 books, so I'm assuming it's going to be 3 seasons. So maybe they're going to do an original story for this or something to talk for the book. But I'm all for that. I loved Altered Carbon. Can't wait to see season 2 next year when it comes out. So I think this is another great idea from Netflix.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because Netflix will do things where you'll see in the news where, Netflix earnings weren't as big as they thought. And the next week, Netflix is going to do this. And they're going to earn a shitload of money, and let's do it. And we're going to make tons of money. Everybody's going to watch it. Netflix, I guess Netflix at this point is like the fucking Walmart of entertainment, they don't care, man. We're just going to keep putting this shit out because you people are going to pay your $10 a month. You're going to watch it.
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
Fucking love it, you know. And man, there's so much on there on the streaming service now, and they have to do this with Disney coming out with streaming service next year. Netflix really has a look into getting some big properties.
Yeah,
you know, because as popular as Netflix is, you can't deny the power of Disney.
Yeah, you really can't. And then now everyone's having their streaming service, and I don't know how people are going to pay for all this streaming service unless you just leave cable.
That's what they're ultimately going to do. And I'm like that. If I can get my Astros on streaming, I might be done with cable, Matt, because I'm to that point. Right now, MLB still has restrictions. You can't get MLB TV and get your Astros locally, except for some cities. They're slowly lifting restrictions. But if I can pay $96 a year for the whole year for MLB TV and watch my Astros games on streaming, I'm done with cable. I'll get to that point. You know, because I'm paying $90 a month right now for TV. I can pay $300. I can get Netflix, MLB TV, Hulu, and then the Disney streaming service. Probably pay $400 for the whole year and get all of them. You know,
that's true.
You look at that point. So, all right, so we'll see what happens with that. Next bit of news: Watchmen, the television series, is in development right now for HBO. It's going to come out sometime next year. I don't know if this is a prequel or it's an adaptation, but they announced Jeremy Irons is going to play Ozymandias.
I think he's a little old to play.
And that was my first thought. You know, I always pictured Ozymandias as being a young, handsome ruler, just like he is in the original film from Zack Snyder. So I wonder what route they're going to go with this. You know, it almost begs me to think they're making some sort of sequel, but didn't Ozymandias die in the movie or in the comics?
Did he?
I don't remember. Or if Night Owl or if Rorschach died.
Yeah.
But did Night Owl let him live? You know, I just can't remember. So I wonder what route HBO is going this. I have every faith in the world in Damon Lindelof in doing this and developing it because he's a great imaginary mind. He's working with J.J. Abrams. But this is starting to look really interesting, you know. And we'll see where it goes. And, you know, as they continue to announce casting and see what they do with it. And HBO has made great stuff, obviously, with Game of Thrones and Westworld. So I think this will come together really nicely.
Yeah. This is going to be good and I'm interesting. Not that I'm like we're not counting out Jeremy Irons. He's a good actor.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Even in Dungeons and Dragons, I thought he was good. You know, but
it's just interesting casting. I didn't expect. It makes you wonder what route they're going with this Watchmen TV series and where they're headed with it. So last bit of news I have is AMC. Of course, we talked last week when we were recording. It was Andrew Lincoln's final episode that night. Well, they didn't kill him. Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler. You know, they alluded to it. I guess I haven't watched it because I'm behind on the show, but I did read what happened. And there's a bridge that he has to blow to get Norman Reedus and everyone else to safety. So he blows the bridge, and it appears to the cast that Rick Grimes is blown up in the explosion. But in a post-credit moment, I guess, or maybe it happened right before the credits, we see that Rick is blown backwards, and he's okay, and he gets impaled by some barbed wire or something, so he is hurt. But a mysterious helicopter takes him away. So he's alive.
Weird.
And then that night on Talking Dead, Chris Hardwick and everyone on the show dropped a bombshell that AMC is going to develop 3 made-for-TV movies based on The Walking Dead and starring, guess who? Andrew Lincoln, Rick Grimes. So Rick's story will continue as AMC has announced now that they want to develop some sort of Walking Dead TV universe. You know, we already know that Morgan is on Fear the Walking Dead now. It's tied in with it. These TV movies fall in. They have said that Rick will never be back on the TV show, that he will do these movies. I still find that hard to believe. I think at some point they're going to have to come together. I still think AMC needs to ultimately have an end game to this and announce an ending, because I think I might get invested again if I know, hey, it's going to run 10 or 11 seasons. Okay, I'm going to watch this and get to the end of it, you know, and see what happens. But it shows the power of the show that it's still going on, that AMC is willing to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, widely popular. It's got to do well for their merchandise. I mean, and there's a lot more things other than TV viewership. You know, it's probably still has enough viewership to stay afloat and stay profitable. And then, of course, you know, everyone likes, you know, how many Negans do we see at Comic-Con? Right. You know, so, and then those foam spiked bats, I mean, they sell everywhere. So it's not going anywhere for now. And I think they're going to revamp themselves with this TV deal with 3 episodes, you know, of Rick Grimes, and it'll work out for Andrew Lincoln too, because he didn't like, you know, traveling a lot, getting away from his family, being on set, you know, far away. So this will be good for him too.
Yeah. So We'll see. I mean, more AMC, more Walking Dead. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, zombies are cool.
Zombies.
So before we preview next week's film, I've got to give a couple of shout outs or mentions, so to speak. And it's funny because within a matter of a couple of days, I had 2 Tom Cruise discussions. One, I'm going to call my friend Naomi out. Okay, she called me out for not watching Halloween. Was her birthday's come up, so she's doing this thing on Facebook where birthday facts, and she's never seen The Princess Bride.
Oh,
She's never seen Beauty and the Beast. What? And she's never seen Top Gun. So I told her, I was like, come on. I said, Beauty and the Beast, okay, you know, it's animated, whatever. I said, Princess Bride, I said, you got to see that one. I mean, my daughter is named after Buttercup and Wesley's baby from the book. It's not in the movie, but in the book version, they name her Waverly. And I told her, you got to see Top Gun. And she's like, well, I kind of don't like Tom Cruise. I'm like, yeah, I know her. So a friend of hers on her Facebook goes, oh, it's the worst movie ever made. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I don't know Naomi's friend. I'm sure she's a sweetheart because Naomi surrounds herself with good people.
Yeah.
But she just felt to me like she was she mentioned how, oh, it's just a dude movie with sunglasses and shirts off. And last I checked, for me, the shirts off doesn't do anything for me. Maybe some dudes do. I think that's more for the ladies. But it felt to me like maybe she was one of those girls that doesn't like things mansplained to her. I don't know. But Top Gun's a fun movie. It's a different time. It's a different era for movies. They're making the sequel right now. But Naomi, watch Top Gun. It's fun. It
really is.
It's got shirtless Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer in it. Come on. I mean, that's got something for the ladies in it, you know? And it is kind of a dumb movie in ways, but it's a fun movie. It's definitely a product of the 80s. It was the highest grossing film in 1986. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's got something to be said. And Cruise, you know, I know he's had his crazy moments. And we kind of have an underlying love for Tom Cruise on this show.
Yeah, we do.
And he's made some great films, too. And my brother had sent me a couple of photos from the set of Top Gun Maverick. My uncle's friend works on the Air Force Base where it's filming, so he sent me these photos. And I had them on my phone for about 2 weeks now. I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. So I watermarked them with the Rebel Radio podcast, and I put them on our Twitter account. Just said, hey, I called it exclusive because I felt it was.
Yeah.
So I get called out today by his Twitter account, and I'm going to read her Twitter account. It's at Lily, Ozzziland. Lily Ozland.
Yeah.
Ozzyland. She's from Australia. She calls me out and says, oh, well, no Tom Cruise photos get put out publicly without him knowing. I was like, no, these are from a source that he took them and he knew he shouldn't have taken them, but he did it anyway. And she's like, oh, no, it's not well. I'm like, okay, well, you can believe whatever you want to believe. So then I go and I check her Twitter account. She cuts off the top of the photo to take my watermark off. But bam, there's another watermark in the middle. It says text. She doesn't take that off and puts a photo on her site. Doesn't give us credit. But yet asks me if I'm accusing her of stealing. Well, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
You stole it from my account. It's obvious. You said you did a backwards Google image search. You can't find them. I did a Google search. I couldn't find these photos. These are legit. They're Tom Cruise. One is a shot of Tom Cruise just standing on set. One is of the camera set up inside the F-16, how it looks. You know, it's kind of cool. So I put them on there. We got a lot of love, a lot of retweets from it. It's like, what the hell? So I call her out on Twitter today. And let people know to retweet this. And all I was asking for was credit. I'm not even really mad. Just give me credit where credit's due.
Exactly.
Just retweet it. Say, hey, check out these Tom Cruise photos. But don't steal my fucking photo and then not give credit where credit's due. That's all I'm at. We weren't even getting rich, you know? It's like, you know, back in the day, you could get these paparazzi photos. You could go sell them to IGN or Dark Horizon, these websites they pay you for them. But now they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
These movies get shot in public places. Everyone has a cell phone. It's not that big a deal. But I thought, hey, people would want to see it. But I did watermark it with Rebel Radio Podcast because that's fair. We put it out there. So next time, Lily Ozzyland, you know, just give credit where credit's due. You know, that's all I'm asking. I'm not even mad at you. You know, it's just, come on.
Come on, dude. Come on.
Give credit.
Fucking people. Now I see why people watermark it diagonally. If you had watermarked it diagonally,
right,
she wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah,
but
right.
After the fact.
I watermarked it on my phone. But still, it's a simple thing.
Yeah.
Just retweet it. Don't steal the photo. You
Man.
know. So, next week on the Rebel Radio Podcast, let's talk about our next movie as we're going to do back-to-back Oscar winners. Creed 2 is fixing to hit theaters. Last year, when we were thinking about rebooting, it was the 40th anniversary last year of the original Rocky. We're thinking about doing a Rocky show. We never did do our 40th anniversary show of Rocky.
Yeah, we never did.
So we're going to do Rocky as our featured movie next week.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years. In 6 years, you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come. You want to know? I want to know! Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
It's a living?
It's a waste of life.
I figure if I break the guy's thumb, he gets laid off, right? He can't make...
Yeah, well, don't figure. Let me do the figuring, okay, Rock? From here on, just let me do the figuring.
Come on! You wanna hit on me? Come on! I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you.
$50. You and your girl Adrian, you have a nice time, eh?
Thanks.
Rock.
What?
Remember what I told you?
What'd you tell me?
Take her to the zoo.
Come on! Come on!
You believe that America is the land of opportunity?
Yeah.
Apollo Creed does. And he's gonna prove it to the whole world by giving an unknown a shot at the title.
I need your help about 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago. You never helped me. You didn't care.
Well, if you wanted help. I say, if you wanted help, why didn't you ask? Why didn't you just ask me, kid?
Look, I asked, but you never heard nothing. Nobody's ever gone the distance from Creed. And if I can go that distance, seeing that bell rings and I'm still standing, that I weren't just another bum from the neighborhood. I mean, who am I kidding? I ain't even in the guy's league. Wish me luck. I'm gonna need it.
Good luck.
Don't leave town.
I don't believe it. The champ is down. Down. Stay down.
Rocky V.
No, the original. And it's just like Gladiator we just talked about. It's another great movie. It's an Oscar winner. And it's much more of an accidental Oscar movie in some ways than even Gladiator was with its script.
Yeah.
Because Stallone fought so hard to get it made, wasn't able to get it made, finally got it made. He had been trying to get this made for like 3 or 4 years. And it gave us Sylvester Stallone and his talent. It gave us arguably one of the greatest underdog stories of all time.
Yeah.
And we're also going to talk, we're going to rank the Rocky movies. We're going to get you ready for Creed 2 coming out in theaters. And we're going to have some fun talking Rocky. You have some thoughts to preview Rocky?
No, it's a well-made film. Like you said, I believe he wrote this, and did he direct it? I want to say
he did direct
it. Yeah. So, it's probably his best directed film, in my opinion, versus Expendables. Because I think he directed the first Expendables at least. But this is a great script.
No, he didn't direct it. Sorry,
he didn't.
He wrote it.
Oh, yeah. He wrote it. That's
John
right.
G. Alvinson directed it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I was like, I know he directed Expendables, and I didn't think Expendables was that great. I like the cast, and I like the.
He directed Rocky too.
He directed Rocky too.
Yeah, I knew he did. You were right. I knew he had directed one of the Rocky movies, but he directed the second one.
Okay, same opponent.
Yeah,
yeah, same opponent.
But it's a great movie. It's. I've actually just rewatched most of the Rocky movies recently. I know you did too.
Yeah.
But I'm going to still sit down and watch it again this week and get ready for it. And it'll be fun. And we've got some good movies coming up for the month of December. I'm going to go ahead and announce this preview now. in 3 weeks, because the week of Thanksgiving, we probably will do an episode. We just don't know the movie yet. Mm-hmm. But in 3 weeks, we're going to do a two-parter featuring Superman and Superman 2.
Absolutely.
As we're going to celebrate 40 years of Superman the movie and 80 years of Superman as a character over a two-part episode the first 2 weeks of December. So just telling you that now so you can get ready. You can maybe watch those Superman movies ahead of time.
Yeah.
And, maybe we'll have to do a Tom Cruise movie the week of Thanksgiving, since these people kind of got under my grit,
You know what?
Talking Tom Cruise.
Let's talk about Risky Business, where he's a pimp.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll do Risky Business, but we'll do Rocky and maybe a Tom Cruise movie the next week.
Come on. There's sex in his parents' room. There's Jack and Coke. There's sex
Rebecca
on a
De
train.
Mornay.
Rebecca De Mornay is fighting a pimp, running from a pimp, crashing his dad's Porsche in the river. There's some cool stuff, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
But as always, thank you for listening to the Rebel Radio Podcast, and go to the rebelradiopodcast.com. Oh, we have to talk about this because it'll happen before we record again next Sunday. Mm-hmm. Because H-Town Podfest this coming Saturday night here in Houston, and it is at Bar Boheme.
Bar Boheme.
But it's how you say it, Bar Boheme, which is here in Houston at 307 Fairview Street. It's Saturday, November 17th.
Montrose. Yeah.
In the Montrose area from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. We will be there probably from 8 to 11. We'll probably be there to 1 p.m. because we got kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll be there. We're going to bring our DAT recorder, do some guerrilla-style podcasting, just talking to some people, and we'll put it all together and attach it to the show or whatever. It's the first event of this kind in Houston. A bunch of cool podcasters. Our friends from Colt 45 will be there. Brian from the Bri-Fi podcast, who I've met a few times, he'll be there. Elizabeth from Nerdy Bitches, she'll be there. Those are the only people I really know. The other people I know through Twitter, but I haven't met them yet, so I'm looking forward to meet them. It should be fun. Me and Matt will be out there at H-Town Podfest next Saturday here in Houston, Texas. So if you're local and you listen to the show locally, maybe come out there and you don't have to drink or anything if you don't want to. Just come say hi, meet some fellow podcasters. If you're looking to start a podcast, there's people out there can help you as long as they're not too drunk or something.
As long as they're not too drunk.
But it should be a fun event next week in Houston. I'm kind of excited about it. Not only that, just a night amongst adults.
A night to get out and have a little fun.
And we're leaving the wives at home, so so it should be fun. So come check out H-Town Podfest if you're local next Saturday, November 17th at Bar. How do you say it? Bar
Boheme.
Bar Boheme. Okay, so that should be fun. But until next time, go to the rebelradiopodcast.com, buy a T-shirt, check out Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. And thanks as always for listening. Yeah. Until next time, this is Mark.
This is Matt.
Just go there and do it.
Hey, Headbangers, this is Rudy Sarzo, and you're listening to the Rebel Radio Podcast.
This is Walter Simonson. You're listening to the Rebel Radio Podcast.
Hey, this is Marky Ramone, and you're listening to the Rebel Radio Podcast.